Hello everyone. Hello everyone. My name is Adam Hess and you guys are watching the Hess Sports Podcast. Today is episode 4. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and share with your friends. We're trying to grow the things as much as possible. If you're watching this on Twitch, be sure to follow if you like what you see. Today's episode is about the Houston Texans, and also I'm going to be giving you who I think will win the Super Bowl this Sunday. And also I wanted to talk about the Portland Trail Blazers because I think, as a fan of them, I think I have a lot to say about this. The Houston Texans. Let's get this going. The Houston Texans are kind of a weird franchise, They are the newest franchise that we have. They came into the league in the year 2002, and they were always at the bottom of the barrel, and then they signed Gary, and then they had Gary Kubiak as a coach, and then Matt Schaub as a quarterback, and they had some okay years for a couple of years there, but nothing great. And then they fired Kubiak, and then they ended up hiring Bill O'Brien, whose last stop was at Penn State before Jonathan Franklin team. Before James Franklin took over for Penn State. Nothing great at first, but then they drafted Deshaun Watson because they won 2 games. Because they started out that year, I think. They started out that year 2-0 before dropping and going 2-14, and they've always had talent on their team, and they were building a pretty nice base. But for whatever reason, the Houston Texans just don't know how to manage. Maybe they gave Bill O'Brien too much control over the team's day-to-day basis, because he was not only their head coach, but he was also their GM. And Bill O'Brien is also a product of the New England Patriot system. So, again, one of the things that you have to worry about as an organization when you hire a person from Bill Belichick's coaching staff. It's risky, because we all know that Bill Belichick has the ultimate say, has a lot of power in New England, right? And that's true. I mean, obviously Robert Kraft, cuts the check and whatnot, but for the most part, Bill Belichick is in control there. And to what extent his assistants have control over the game planning, I don't know, but I would imagine the buck stops with Bill Belichick most often, right? And so one of the things that you have to look out for when you hire an assistant from Bill Belichick's camp is he going to try and be like Bill Belichick, or is he going to try and be his own person? And I think when coaches go eventually get a shot on Bill Belichick's staff, I think they try to emulate Bill Belichick, because that's what they assume that their bosses want, and that's not always the case. Yes, teams in the league would love to have the Patriot way be implemented into their system, because the Patriots have been so successful over the years. But the thing about coaching is that you got to try and be different. As much as you would love to emulate your old coaches, sometimes, because they're successful, it's really hard to do that, because for one, you're not that person. Bill O'Brien is not Bill Belichick, you know, and that's the thing that I think a lot of franchises struggle with, you know, um, you know, and the Deshaun Watson thing is getting pretty sad because he's a great quarterback, he's a good quarterback, and the fact that you know and the sad part is that I think egos got the better. I think egos are what ultimately destroyed the Houston Texans because I don't care about because DeAndre Hopkins is arguably the best receiver in football, one of them, right? I would still think that people would put Julio Jones up there at the top, followed by um, followed by possibly Antonio Brown, and then but DeAndre Hopkins is definitely up there. But he's definitely up there. And the thing about it is that I really think the tide turned when they did get rid of DeAndre Hopkins. It's kind of like, what are you doing, And if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm seeing that move, and I'm like, why did you make that move? Because because he won us a lot of games, Because Deshaun Watson, for all the great things that he's done, he's never had offensive line to protect him. His O-line's has been putrid. He's been hit a lot of times over the course of his career so far. And the good thing about it is that Deshaun Watson's has had the speed and escapability that Russell Wilson has, and whenever he's in trouble, he would just throw it to DeAndre Hopkins, and it would get him out of a lot of situations. I think back to that game versus the Cardinals a year ago when DeAndre Hopkins caught a ball and went the length of the field and won them the game. I think that was against the Cardinals. I'm not sure, but I'm sure that was the nail in the coffin for Deshaun Watson, and the quarterback position is one of the toughest positions to get right. Once you get it right, you need to do what you can to keep him there, because there's a lot of teams in the league that would love to have a guy like Deshaun Watson as their quarterback, and they would move heaven and earth to make them happy, and that's what you got to do because you don't want to go back to the David Carr era of the Houston Texans, and you certainly don't want to go back down to certainly don't want to go back to the days when you had like Tom Savage, play, or Brock Osweiler. You want to start bringing in a bunch of those guys, So what do the heck Houston Texans do? They're talking about not trading him. They're not going to trade him, but I would if I was Texans, because your relationship with Deshaun Watson has been destroyed beyond repair. I think even though they hired David Coley, and not letting Deshaun Watson be in on the coaching search. It was just even after Deshaun Watson recommitted to you, because he said even though we got rid of DeAndre Hopkins, we'll let you have say on who the next coach will be, and apparently that never happened, and the Houston Texans kind of deserved it, because some would say that they kept Bill O'Brien a little too long. Urinating Tree calls Bill O'Brien a hack because he's got a big ego and he struggles with game decisions. Sometimes his ego gets to him, and I feel bad for David Coley because he took the job because he heard that Deshaun Watson would stay, and Deshaun Watson has stated that he's now willing to, play hardball. And it's just unfortunate for the Houston Texans, what will happen? Where should he go? Who knows? Recently, I've seen that, the Oakland Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders are now interested in trading for Deshaun Watson. Because they're not happy with Derek Carr. The Jets maybe, but we'll see. The next thing I want to talk to you about, and by the way, if you're enjoying this show so far, I am multi-streaming this on YouTube at HSP Sports and on twitch.tv/DiegoWarrior100. If you like what you see, leave a comment and press that like button and subscribe if you want to see more of this. My name is Adam Hess, and I'm doing and I've always wanted to do my own podcast. I had one last year, but I stopped it because of school. Anyway, back to the podcast. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the Super Bowl. It's coming up. I know I did the Super Bowl last time, in last episode, but I didn't give you who I thought would win, and I think I've got a pretty good idea of the game. I think this, as I said before, I think this Super Bowl has the potential to be one of the best games we've ever seen, because you have Tom Brady on one team and Patrick Mahomes on the other, and it'll be interesting to see how and that will be a really good matchup. As you know, or you may not know, is that this is the first time in Super Bowl history where a team will host the Super Bowl, where a team playing in the Super Bowl will play at its own stadium. The game is obviously in Tampa Bay this year. Is in Tampa this year. And hold on. And yeah, and it obviously has the potential to be the best game, because and I don't think this will hurt anyone's legacy, because I think one of the unfortunate things about Patrick Mahomes is that because of his start, he's expected to win every game, and the Super Bowl is a really difficult game to win. Back to back even. There have not been very many back to backs in the Super Bowl era. The last team to obviously the last team to repeat Super Bowls is the Patriots. The Seahawks almost did it in 2013 and 2014, but they lost that game to the Patriots. The Cowboys did it, then the Cowboys did it, and then the Broncos did it. So the Cowboys have done it once. Let's see, if I'm doing my math correctly. But this is historic, I definitely do think the Chiefs have the best chance to win because of their team. But the thing is, it's really hard to pick against Tom Brady. I have made that mistake numerous times. I did it this year because I thought Aaron Rodgers, because I felt like the cold, because of the cold weather and whatnot, playing in Lambeau, obviously looking to get revenge from earlier in the season when the Buccaneers, basically blew out the Packers, dominated them 38-10, absolute thrashing. That they would you know, win. And the game obviously kind of followed the same path as the first game because Tom Brady didn't have any trouble scoring, and when the Packers did score, it was a little too late in my opinion. Even though they got close, you know, they got to those 10 points like in the last game, and I was like, uh-oh, because it became 21-10, and that was kind of the nail in the coffin at that point in my opinion. This matchup between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers is probably one of the best we'll see, because not only do they got two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, I think when it's all said and done, Patrick Mahomes will definitely be a first ballot Hall of Famer because of his success, and Tom Brady will most definitely be a Hall of Famer. He already is, you know, even though he's not qualified yet. But because he's still playing, and not only do you have two quarterbacks that are basically Hall of Famers, you have two of the best receiving corps in the league, because the Chiefs have Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, Mecole Hardman, and Le'Veon Bell at running back. And then on the Buccaneers side, you have Leonard Fournette, you have Mike Evans, you have Antonio Brown, you have Chris Godwin, and then Scotty Miller. So both defenses for both teams have a lot on their plates this game. They'll have a lot to deal with, and the question is who will be able to stop who. You know, I think defensively the Chiefs have a better unit because they have, you know, at least at corner. You know, I think the Buccaneers money is mainly on the. I think the Buccaneers money was put on the defensive line with Jason Pierre-Paul and non-Dominican Sue. You know, but I think their backing is the weaker link of their defense. Because they can be got. Shannon Sharp, that was one of Shannon Sharp's concerns, because while they have good defensive line, the Buccaneers gave up a lot through the air. You know, that was one of the things that you could do on them. And if there's one thing Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs are known for doing, it's passing the ball. And if Tyreek Hill can get involved early, if Patrick Mahomes can get his weapons involved early, it'll be a long night for that defense for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But we'll see, because I mean both defenses are good. I think Honey Badger is one of the best safeties in the league. He plays for the Chiefs. I like Frank Clark. I think the Chiefs have the better, on paper, I think they have the better team all around, but it's really hard to pick against Tom Brady. Really difficult, as I have said before. The thing about Tom Brady is that as I said before, I've made that mistake of picking against him before. And the fact that they're playing in their home stadium, I feel like they'll be the most comfortable, because they'll just see it as they're probably just saying it's another playoff game to them, because you know they're at home this time. They'll try, and I'm sure the NFL will do something do their part to make sure it doesn't feel like a home game, even though it will feel like a home game for the Buccaneers. But it's a lot to deal with, because not only is it in Tampa Bay, but it's the Buccaneers playing and it's Tom Brady. And legacy wise, this would be a bit. And legacy wise, Tom Brady wants a Super Bowl not only because it'll be his 7th Super Bowl, but for him to be the first quarterback to lead a team to a Super Bowl. That's playing that to but for Tom Brady to be the person to lead his team to the Super Bowl and play in his home stadium, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. And Tom Brady is already the GOAT in my opinion. He's already the greatest of all time. I know about all the cheating and stuff that's gone on in the Patriots, but the fact of the matter is that every team is always looking for some way to, exploit the rules or something like that. I remember seeing a quote. I remember watching an Oakland Raiders video, and in their video they talked about how Al Davis, who used to be who was the longtime owner of the Raiders, he had a thing in the locker room that said, if you ain't cheating, you're not trying. And then rule number 2 is see number 1. And so any team is trying to gain an edge. Now the Patriots have just been better at it, and yes, it doesn't look good on you when you get caught, but every team's trying. Every team's trying to do something. And I think it's part of the game, just like baseball, just like in baseball. You're always trying to gain an edge, and if you can find a way to do it, you do it until you get caught. That is. I think Tom Brady does win this game, unfortunately, because it's hard for me to pick against Tom Brady. I am hoping the Chiefs do it, but I think history has shown that you do not bet against Tom Brady at all. So for my pick, I think it's going to be the Buccaneers winning this game. I can't tell you the score because I don't know. It might be a shootout, and it might be a blowout. The other thing that I think it'll come down to is how many picks Brady will throw, because even as good as they played against the Packers, Brady still threw 3 interceptions. It'll be interesting to see how that plays in effect, because I think if Tom Brady gets the turnover bug this game, I think the Chiefs are too good of a team to capitalize on those, and the Packers weren't good enough versus the Bucs when capitalizing on their turnovers. They're not as they're not as loaded as the Chiefs are in that sense. So I think Andy Reid is telling the Chiefs that there's a possibility that Tom Brady will throw an interception in this game. We just got to make sure that we got to make sure that when it does happen, that we put points up on the board, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. But in order to beat Tom Brady, you got to make every possession count. And even when you're behind, you got to make every possession count, because it's Tom Brady, and he's the ultimate master of closing games and winning. So I don't think this game will hurt either legacy, because the Chiefs are still going to be the Chiefs even next year. Because they pretty much locked up most of their team for the foreseeable future, and it'll be interesting to see. Now, Now the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is the Portland Trail Blazers. They are a disappointing team a lot of the times. They win games. They win a lot of games every year, right? But then they look like it. But then they lose to a team that they should not lose to, and it's really frustrating because they should be better, but they just can't play but they just don't play consistent enough, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's because Nurkic is out, but you can't. But at some point, and this is how they've been in the past few years. They start out really sluggish at the beginning of the season, and then they go on this run at the end of the year, and people are saying, "Oh, they're starting to look like a finals team. They're starting to look like a team that could contend for the finals," and I think in the sport of basketball, it's really important that you stay consistent enough throughout the season, even when you lose, even when you have a bad spell, when you lose a couple games, but that you've been consistent enough, and you can keep the foot on the pedal. Because I think the teams that win the finals are usually the teams that stay consistent enough throughout the season, not just play one really good game here, one or two games really well here, and then lose this game and lose an ugly game here. It's a lot of consistency, maybe one or two ugly games here, and you're saying what's happened to this team, and they're like, oh, it'll be fine. They've been consistent enough throughout the season so I'm not worried about them yet. If they lose more games like that, then we can start to be worried. But they've shown what they're capable of, and they'll get back to it. And I think is it time to split up the duo that is Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum? I don't know, but I do know that Seth Curry was a really good addition for them a couple years ago. I thought they should have tried to keep him because that was an element off the bench, shooting wise. That was a really dangerous threat shooting wise for them, and I think they should have kept that because when Damian Lillard goes to the bench or CJ McCollum goes to the bench, they're kind of at the whims of how the bench plays, and the bench doesn't always play very well, who's their starting? If I may, real fast, what does their starting lineup look like this year? Let me see. I'm pulling it up real fast on my phone. Let's see here. Let's see. So let's see here. Let's see here. So it looks like, so obviously they're playing Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. Let's see here. Hold on. I don't think I'm in the right spot. So their starting lineup right now looks like Damian Lillard, Gary Trent Jr. When they're healthy, it looks like they're going with Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum, Derek Jones, Robert Covington, and Enes Kanter. I think, in my honest opinion, I think Gary Trent should be your bench player because he is that shooter. Um, I don't know. I feel like you. I don't know. The bench for the Portland Trailblazers is always a question in my opinion. I think our bench was the best a couple years ago when the Warrior when the Warriors last made the finals. I think that bench that year was my arguably my favorite. You know, I think they should have kept that going because I think Enes Kanter was a good addition to the team, even though he doesn't play defense or he's not good defensive wise. But I liked that. I like the fact that we had Seth Curry, Rodney Hood, Enes Kanter, um, um, Myers Leonard for the player that he was. I know he was overpaid, but I felt like he made his money in the playoffs, and I feel like and imagine last year if we had Seth Curry on the bench still, and then we also had um, and then Gary Trent also develop into a player, and Carmelo Anthony and Enes Kanter and a healthy Nurkic, and then also a healthy Lillard and McCollum. I think that's a pretty solid team this year. You know, obviously Curry has kind of developed into his own player elsewhere, but I feel like we missed that shooting that he provided. Um, he didn't shoot a lot during his time as a Portland Trailblazers, but when he did get to shoot, when they did allow him to shoot, he made some pretty good shots. I I remember a couple games in 2018 when I was like, oh dang, that was a nice shot. That kind of looked like Steph Curry, and and yeah, I just feel like the Portland Trailblazers need to do a better job of evaluating their bench and whatnot, um, because it always seems like we have to start over, and and it's really hard to get a bench right. Um, we also got to find a way to play better as a team early in the season, because if you look at their they always start out, as I said before, they always seem to start out slow, and like they'll have a good game here and there, and then at the end of the season they'll have a really good streak of wins, and that's fun. That's fun as a fan to watch, but it's kind of but it's not really it's not going to win you a championship, because at any point they'll flip back into that early season form, and you don't want that. The reason why you want to stay consistent is that if you do fall back into early season form, it won't hurt you that much, and 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 perhaps Terry Stotts is not, and perhaps Terry Stotts, you know maybe that's as far as Terry Stotts can take the Portland Trail Blazers, and perhaps you need to start looking at other coaches, because if you think about Mark Jackson, and I know for the Warriors, and I know he's a really good coach, but I feel like the decision to fire him was basically because the Warriors were ready to win, and they felt like Mark Jackson took him as far as he could. They let him stay for one more season before ultimately deciding to go to Steve Kerr. But he but they were ready to win now, and sometimes that's how the coaching world works. Sometimes you bring in a guy to help build your program, and he's a temporary fix because you're trying to build and see what he can do and develop, because maybe maybe he's good at developing, but then you know that he can't get you very, but once you do when you do eventually build that winning formula, it's all it's you know you give him one more season, but he served his purpose as a coach. You know, he got you to where you wanted to go, but not. But you know that when the he at least made you relevant. That's what Mark Jackson did for the Warriors. He made them relevant. And credit to them for sticking with Steph Curry, you know, and building it up. But when they went to Steve Kerr, it's because they wanted to win now, and they wanted and Steve Kerr was obviously off the Greg Popovich, played with Greg Popovich and understood how to win championships, and I think that's why they went with Steve Kerr, because he knew what it takes to win, and he was really good with matchups, and that was kind of the formula for them, and perhaps we're seeing the ceiling for Terry Stotts right now. You know, maybe they go and get another different, maybe they say, you know, Terry Stotts has been a good coach, but we haven't been able, but for some reason we've never been able to break through with him, and maybe that means you go with a new coach. That's just my thoughts of the Portland Trailblazers. This show, let's see. Next up, anyway, that's what I want to talk about today. Maybe next episode we will talk about the Beavers, or we can do it right now. But how's it going, Ski? I am right now I'm doing a sports podcast. Stream what? Stream back or stream black? Can you not see me? Anyway, I've just been doing a podcast. This is episode 4 of my podcast that I've started. That I relaunched, actually, more accurately. But today I talked about the Houston Texans and the problems that they have, and then I talked about the Super Bowl. I think the Bucks will win simply because it's hard to pick against Tom Brady, and I always feel dumb when I pick against him. And then I talked about the Portland Trailblazers. I'm considering talking about the Beavers real fast, because that's what I want. Because that's one of the other things that I love talking about is the Beavers, and perhaps I could talk about my journey as a Beaver fan and kind of my view of the program. I became so for me, for me, the Beavers are my favorite team. The Oregon State Beavers, they're my favorite team. Even if I would put them above the Seattle Seahawks and the Portland Trailblazers as my favorite sports team. Voice? What do you mean? What do you mean? But anyway, I, but anyway, okay. But anyway, the thing about see, I've always been a Beaver fan, but my journey, I would say, started back in 2006. I didn't quite understand sports yet. In 2006, I knew about them because I played them, but I didn't really have a team yet. And I remember one time in the I remember one time at the playground at recess early in the morning. I think it was college day. I think you know the time in the the time in the year when the teachers like when the school tells you to dress up in your favorite sports team. They call it college day because it was the rivalry week, and I remember people saying like ducks or beavers or ducks, and I didn't quite understand what that meant at the time. So I think what I did was I went with Oregon at first. I believe I think, but I didn't quite understand it. But then I wasn't quite a sports fan yet, and maybe I said beavers though too. Maybe I said beavers or ducks. I can't remember, but my old stepbrother, one of my stepbrothers, his family were Beaver fans because I think a lot of their family members had gone to Oregon State, and that's why they were Beaver fans. And we would watch a lot of, and we would watch the San Diego Chargers play at the time, and the Seattle Seahawks, and then we would also watch the Beaver game. And we don't watch the Beaver game very often. I think one of the games we did watch was I can't remember if we watched the 2006 game versus the USC Trojans. You know when the Beavers when the Beavers took down the Trojans in 2006. We watched that game. I think if I remember correctly. I can't remember. And then we started watching, and then I think we were at Papa's house for Thanksgiving that year as well, and now that's usually when the Civil War is. That's when the Ducks would play the Beavers, and I think the Beavers won that game. And I remember that at that point when I said I'm a Beaver fan now, and I've kind of flip flopped because I wasn't quite sure yet, and I think 2007 was really the time when I did make my decision to be a Beaver fan, and it was a fun time to be a fan of that team because they didn't they didn't make any big bowl games, but they won a lot of games, and it was fun to watch because in 2008 the Beavers took down the Beavers took down the Trojans again in 2008. If you remember the Rogers brothers, I don't know if you know about James and Jaquiz Rogers at all, ski, but they were really fun, and they were one of the reasons why I got into football. I started watching and playing, but I remember I'll never forget Jaquiz Rogers running this 5'6" running back who weighed 196 pounds, but basically torched the USC Trojans. They couldn't stop him. You couldn't find him in the pocket. You couldn't find him, in the lanes because he was so small. And not only that, he was quick. He was quick on his feet. He could juke, and then he could also break tackles. And he became my favorite player. And I think the thing that really made me a Beaver fan also was in 2009 when LeGarrette Blount punched the Boise State player, and there was and at that time for Oregon's program there was a lot of people getting arrested on their team, a lot of people getting in trouble, and I didn't think that was very I didn't think that looked very good. I didn't feel like it was good for my fan base, for my fandom. I should say. Hold on. I went to my first game. I went to my first football game in 2009 when the Oregon State Beavers played the Washington Huskies. I remember this because it was Sean Canfield's last game, and then we went in 2010, I believe, and we watched them play the California Golden Bears. If I remember correctly, there. We didn't go to a game in 2011. We went to a game in 2012. We went to the Civil War actually in that year. And then I think we went in 2013. I can't remember though. We went 2009, 2010. We went 2012. Maybe we did go. No, I don't think we went 2013 because I think I was playing football at this point, and we were playing football at this point, and I was busy, so maybe we didn't. Maybe if we did, probably at the end of the season. But we went in 2014. That game was against the Washington State Cougars, and then we went in 2015 when we watched them play the Colorado Buffaloes, and then we went 2016. They played Weber State, I believe. We watched them play Weber State in 2016. And then we went in 2017 when for my second Civil War. The first time I ever went to Civil War was in 2012, and then 2017, and then I went one time in 2018 when they played the Arizona Wildcats, and then in 2019 I went to all the home games because I was eventually a student at Oregon State, so I got to go all the time. But for me as a fan, it's really fun to be a fan of them. They went from a good team to a bad team, and it's kind of been fun watching their growth over the years. I feel like they were on the right path in 2015 and 2016. I feel like they had a chance to be good again. It's just that their decision making in regards to their quarterback wasn't the best, and it was it was really awesome to see them beat the Ducks in 2016, and I felt like they won 4 games that year, and I was really thinking that 2017 would be better because I thought Marcus McMaryion would be back because he would be back, and I thought it would be a really good season, but it didn't happen because of injuries, and also the fact that they decided to go with a new guy who transferred in, and I'm all for that, but I think fit wise, I think Luton. I feel like McMaryion was a better fit for the scheme that Gary Anderson was trying to run at Oregon State, as opposed to Luton. And Luton obviously and that's not no knock against Luton, but I just feel like you should have gone with the more experienced guy, and I feel like you would have gotten at least a few more wins in 2017 because you would have already had that familiarity in place. And I think McMarion would have beaten Colorado State and maybe Minnesota. I feel like we were good enough to beat both of those teams with McMarion as our quarterback, but we chose not to go with him, and it was just unfortunate. And then they hired Jonathan Smith, and he's been doing a really nice job. We're finally starting to see some recruits come here. We're starting to see some transfers. I've been liking the transfers that have been coming in. We got a player come from South Carolina. We got a player come from Florida State last year. A kid from Nebraska. We got a kid from Georgia. People are starting to come here now. It's not on the level of Oregon yet, and I don't think it will ever be. But it's definitely a start, and it's really nice to see. I love the Beavers. They're my favorite team. The thing about the Beavers that I've always admired over the Ducks is the fact that the Beavers never seem to quit in their games. Even though they do get blown out a lot, it's never feels like they've quit. They never throw in the towel. They're even if they're the least talented team on the field, there's always a chance that they could win, and that's what I like about the Beavers. The Ducks are more front runners in my opinion. They enjoy leads. They win a lot, but when they get challenged, they struggle with closing those games out. Beavers do too, but when the Ducks lose, they lose, and Beavers have always had more heart in my opinion, and always more effort, and that speaks volumes to me. And I remember and I remember wanting to be a part of that team. Like even now I say, if I could have, I would, if I could just wear the uniform, that'd be the best thing. Just to wear the helmet. That's the only thing I'd do. Just to wear the helmet and uniform. That'd be a dream come true. Yeah, but anyway, that's it for episode 4 of my podcast. Again, this is on twitch.tv/SagerWarrior100, and also it's on Hess Sports Podcasts. It's also on YouTube at Hess Sports. My name is Adam Hess, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and consider leaving a follow here. Any support helps. I wanted to talk to you about my plans for the podcast going forward. I think it could be pretty fun to do a little. I feel like when there's times when I don't have a lot to say, it's a short episode. Maybe I'll play some NCAA football while I talk to you guys about it, because I've got the NCAA set up right here. Normally, I heard that they decided to bring it back. I hope EA doesn't ruin it. I'm really hoping that they don't let us down, because college football is fun. Because NCAA is probably my favorite series of all time. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'm still learning as I go. I know a lot of times